I am Ray, and this is how you're going to be free from your poopy circumstances. You know, I'd like to hear your opinion, because I don't understand why. Why does everyone live such, lives of desperation? And then, I realize that, oh, wait a minute. When you live a certain way, you will receive a certain outcome. There are right ways and wrong ways to do things in this life, based on the human level. And it's hard for me because it's so obvious what people's problems are and how to escape them. But to them, how do you think it is? When it's our own problems and our own stuff, we have so many blind spots. So we just don't know what's going on. I could give anybody the exact right advice that they needed, but it doesn't make a difference unless they're already prepped and open for it. So it's a good thing you're here because you're already prepped. And so it's harder for me to help the people in my life than it is to help you. So currently in my home, or where I'm staying, everybody's life kind of sucks. And they know it sucks, it's just one of those unspoken things. And I've been here for a while, and I've seen how much it sucks. And it's interesting how you can approach the same situation from a different attitude, a different mentality, and come out way better. Or you just get worse. And nothing happens, and nothing gets better, and then you die alone and broke and tired. When you reflect upon, people who have poor lives, and you see what they do, and you see how they talk, and you see how we can't see how they think, but you can get an idea of how they think. It's like, oh, no wonder your life sucks. It's obvious. And that's why I say, if you only paid attention to the words that you speak and the thoughts that you think for one day, you would have no question why your life is the way it is. Because you would see these underlying causes, these things that we do that send out a chain of events that leads to the life that we experience. And if we aren't aware of those underlying causes, we won't understand why life is happening this way. And one thing that destroys everyone is being a victim. I hope you don't have that mentality. Because, for instance, one of my old buddies, he was in that mentality. And guess what? Still in generally the same place after 2 decades, if not worse. Repeating the same stories in his mind every day, all the time. Never letting go of the past. And then people too also have the audacity to say, why does life suck so bad? Life is terrible. People suck. I hate life. I hate people. And I was there once too. Exactly there. But what happened? I realized the error in my ways, that the way I was looking at the world was just plain wrong. Because the way I was looking at the world led me to suffering and not freedom. That, by definition, is the wrong way of looking at things. If your brain causes you to get eaten by a mountain lion, well, your brain wasn't very smart now, was it? Evolutionarily and biologically speaking, you have failed because you have gotten eaten. And all the smart monkey humans, they didn't get eaten. And so they get to move on with their lives and reproduce and no more, loser DNA. So too we must understand the underlying truths that lead us to greatness and freedom and away from these low-level poopy circumstances that nobody wants to live, but they feel like they're forced to because they don't know any other way. And it also doesn't matter what you're going through. Because, it's if you're struggling with business, I could give you some business advice, and it's okay. But if you change the fundamental layer from which you perceive reality itself, well, that's going to influence every other aspect of your life. And that's what is needed. So don't get so distracted in the outer world thinking about the latest techniques, thinking about the latest thing to help you achieve this. Because the deeper you go, the deeper you change, the bigger impact you will have. Or the bigger impact that change will have on you. And if you stay in the surface level of things, in the outer world, a silly example my life will get better once I get this. Once I get a promotion. Or something like that. No, the only thing that matters is you. You. And this, my friend, is one of the mindsets that separates me from other people. And this one, I have also listened to other great people and their books and how they talk and stuff like that, and they agree. And you can tell if you're going to be successful, generally speaking. Well, if you just have a little bit of a reflective capacity to, see where you're going wrong and see what you're doing right. But also, all you got to do is listen to people who are already successful. And you see, do my ideas and beliefs line up with theirs? Are they the same? Or are they different? And oftentimes, they're not doing what you're doing. They don't have what you have. So the first mindset that's going to set you free from your poopy circumstances, and that is, it's all about you. Now, I'm not talking about just being selfish and only focusing on you. What I mean is, you got to be focused on self-mastery. This is one of the things that I've seen that has separated successful people and is separating me from the other people in my life. I like to come back to the Behave Matrix. This is a framework for really reality creation. Changing your circumstances, changing your environment, changing your life. Now, this side of the equation is the slave side of the equation, and this side is the free. Which side do you want to be on? It says Frez. What are you going to do? I think this says SL line 7W. So you want to be Frez or you want to be slave? What most people do is that they do their behavior is focused on getting things. So, easy example, you want money. So you go to a job and you work to get money. Ta-da! How most people live their life. I want something, so I'm going to do something to get that something. And that keeps you a slave. Because there's a never-ending Ferris wheel of things for you to get in this life. It literally never ends. Once you get something, you're just going to want more and more and more until you realize the world cannot satisfy you. And so, for example, let's just say, you're struggling with money. Like the people in my house. So obnoxious. Always struggling with money. No money. And I was like that for a long time too. But what changed in me? Why is everyone else in so much lack and scarcity and I am, for some reason, in abundance? Living in the same toxic, negative environment. What is it different about me? Well, I'll tell you what's different about me is that if I focus on fighting with my circumstances, I will only get more entangled in them. Like, you're broke, you don't know what you're going to eat, you don't know how you're going to pay rent, and you're in that situation, you're in that story. And that's what it is. It's a story in your mind. A story that you mistake for reality. And because we've spent our whole lives living this way, we don't assume that there is any other way to live. I don't know what your situation is, but I'm just going to use some examples of my own life. So, the landlady that I'm living at her house, and she's crazy. And she's always complaining about not having enough money, and she's been worried about losing the house for years because she's perpetually broke. So is everyone else. And so, we get in these psychological dramas of what we think is happening to us in this life, and we live from that state. We live from that assumption. I am in a situation where I am at risk in losing my house. I am in a situation with which I am broke, and I am struggling, and I don't know what I'm going to eat, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. All of this psychological drama is happening, and we perceive that to be the actual truth, because that is how we experience it. So why would we ever assume anything else? This is the truth. This is the evidence that is before me. So this is what I believe. Of course I'm going to believe that. This is the evidence right here. The facts of reality is that, I'm struggling. And no, it's just completely made up. It's all made up. It's all fake. It's all just thoughts in your head that you believe in. That's what it means to be a slave to your senses. A slave to animalistic consciousness, to fear and survival. We don't realize that we're not experiencing the actual reality. We're just experiencing the story in our brains about what is happening. That is why Eckhart Tolle, he said, the primary cause of our unhappiness is not what happens to us. It's our thoughts about what happens to us. Now, if you pay close attention to your thoughts the next time something poopy happens, you will see that you will go from one moment being perfectly okay to the next moment, having a negative thought, and then spiraling out of control. What is it that happened? It wasn't the experience that happened. It was your response to the experience that happened. And that is what leads you to self-destruction. It's not what happens to you. It doesn't matter. Your external circumstances are irrelevant. They are irrelevant to the degree in which, well, so long as you're stuck in animalistic consciousness, your external circumstances will be very relevant. But we have to rise higher if we want to be free. If we don't want to be a slave to these crappy lives anymore. And your mind will resist this idea that what you're going through is just a story in your mind. Because we like to feel validated and we like to feel like our problems are meaningful and really big and the biggest things in the world, and they're really important because of me. I am important. My problems are also important. I need to feel validated. That's what people are like nowadays. They need to feel like they're validated in whatever assumptions they've come up with. We're not going down that rabbit hole, but I imagine you can probably think of a few examples of that. But I am in no position to validate your ignorance. So I'm just going to tell you how it is. And you can either just disregard what I say or be curious. Until you break free from the story in your head, you will not break free from your circumstances. Because the story is what is keeping you stuck. So human beings are very outward focused, very sense driven. So if you are ruled by your senses, meaning you're so focused on what is happening outside of you, think about it, your attention is just going to get pulled all over the place by all the different things that are happening. This is happening, and then that is happening, and then this is happening, and I'm going to go over here, and this is happening. There's one problem, and then there's another problem, and then you fix that problem, there's another problem over there. Never any problems. It's only successful if you want to be a slave, because you can grind your way to the top, but at the end of it, you'll still have some gaping hole inside of you, because you cannot find lasting satisfaction in a temporary world. Everything in this life is changing. So no matter what you get, no matter what you do, nothing of this world will give you lasting satisfaction. And that is the ignorance, that is the illusion that we're under. We assume that if we have more money, or if we have a relationship, or if we have a better environment, or if we have this, or we have that, then we can be happy. Finally. But I've been conducting an experiment for the past 5 years. The place that I've been living at, although I'm grateful for having a place to stay, I mean, it's in the top 1% of the least desirable places to live. I mean, the people are messed up, which creates messed up circumstances and problems all the time. I mean, it's a lot better now, but for a long time, it was really bad. Just very low negative states of consciousness, negative states of being. And well, in the past 5 years, I look at everyone who's been in the same environment, same place as me, and I'm not saying other people haven't made progress and haven't evolved, but it's like for everyone else, their life has gotten worse. And for me, my life has only gotten better. If we're all in the same negative environment, how can one person succeed? And not only succeed, but thrive. And everyone else just wallow in suffering. Put up with it and try to wait it out. This is why. It's because if you're not focused and if you don't reflect upon yourself, you will go nowhere in life. You have to be evolution focused. You cannot stay stagnant in this life. You cannot just live your life and allow it to go by without also reflecting. I mean, unless you're already an enlightened master, then don't listen to what I say. But even then, an enlightened master would reflect when they speak to God. And look, you don't even have to be that good. Like, I have done nothing but fall on my face over and over again. Continuously failing all the time. So there's no excuse. Other people are failing. Failure is going to be a part of the equation whether you like it or not. The question is whether or not success is part of your equation. And this is the differentiating factor. How much do you reflect upon yourself and how you can evolve and be better and grow and change? Not your external circumstances. They're irrelevant. The more you forget about your external circumstances, the better off you will be. Because you will be able to better manage your energy. Because, again, if you look at your bank account, or if you look at your circumstances, and you got no money, How's that going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel bad. But why does it make you feel bad? Because you're focusing on it. That's the only reason. Can you believe it? I can only believe it. The only reason problems bother you is because you're looking at them. Now we're walking dangerous territory here because some people can just ignore problems forever and then die. That is not what I'm saying. Don't do that. What matters is how productive you are in focusing on the problem. Are you just wallowing in suffering? Or are you reflecting upon yourself? Because your life is nothing more than a reflection of you. Your past thoughts, your past feelings, your past actions, who you are, and your state of being, which is your energy. It influences your behavior. And your behavior influences what you get in this life. There are causes over here, and there are effects over here. And this is why this is the free side. Because when you get and address the causal reality, you have absolute power over the effects. But you don't have power over the effects. Like you can't assure a certain outcome all the time. Because there's all kinds of random variables that we are not accounting for. So you can do what you think is the right things. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you expect. But when you address life at the fundamental level, you can more accurately predict how life is going to unfold for you. And there's no mystery anymore. Because, how do people live their lives? There's so much mystery. What's going on? What's happening? How do I deal with this? Oh, it's way too overwhelming for me. I don't know if I can deal with this. I don't know if I'll survive. I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, Winnie the Pooh. All that matters is your state of being. Circumstances don't matter. And it's a fundamental shift that we have to have toward life. We stop valuing the external world so much, and we start valuing the internal state of consciousness. So this is energy management. And the reason we do this is because, for example, the abundant version of you automatically thinks and acts that in ways that reaffirm abundance. And so you will receive abundance. But if you're living in lack and scarcity and you just want abundance, you can try and get abundance all you want. You're going to sabotage yourself. Because life is always returning to equilibrium, to the default, to what is familiar. And if what is familiar is lack and scarcity, guess what? Stupid camera. You're going to stay stuck in lack and scarcity. That is why in the Bible it says, for those who have, more will be given. And those who have not, even what they have will be taken from them. Because when you live from your senses and you're born into lack and scarcity, guess what? All you're focusing on is lack and scarcity. So all you feel is lack and scarcity. And that becomes who you are. And once that identity has been solidified, you have produced a whole big machine that produces lack and scarcity on automatic, 24/7, no breaks. And you cannot go against that. You will run yourself into the ground. And so what will happen? For example, let's say you work really hard for like 6 months and you save so you can get out of your poopy circumstances, right? Well, guess what? If you don't change your energy, you're probably going to make the wrong decision and return to zero. That's the price that we pay for our ignorance. For not knowing how to live right. And, the religions and the spirituality, they try and teach you how to live right. But you got to be self-mastery focused, or else it's not going to matter. You're not going to reflect. You're not going to see certain pieces of information that are vital to your success. Like, I ruminate on negativity all day, every day. I wonder what would happen if I just stopped doing that. Like, you start to realize how much in fear and lack and scarcity you're in that you weren't aware of before. And now, okay, everything makes sense. Because all the data, all the information you need to succeed is right in front of you. It's just we don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. You have lost your ears because we're too distracted listening to the noise of the world. Slave side of the equation. The only thing that matters is how well can you be congruent in feeling how you want to feel, in being who you want to be, and everything else will take care of itself. This is automatic mode. This is manual mode. Over here, you gotta grind. Over here, you gotta be. And once you be properly, your actions will become automatic. Because think about two different versions of you. One has never worked out a day in their life. They have no identity. They have no energy around working out and exercising. So they're never going to just randomly wake up one day and go for a 5-mile run. It's never going to happen. Because there's no energetic alignment with that idea, that action. But if you have been working out for years and years and years, and you love running, well, how much effort does it take to go and run? It takes no effort. You just do it because you love it. Because that version of you naturally engages in those actions. So all you got to do is become that version of you. It's like, what do people do? I want health. So I got to go gym and eat good salad. You eat salad and go to gym. Hi, I have health. All good. But that's why nobody can sustain the diet. That is why no one can sustain a gym routine. Because you're just trying to get something. You're like a tree with no roots. So life puts a little bit of pressure on you, you give up. You give up the action, so you can't be consistent enough to see the results. And so if you just become someone who has identified with being healthy, naturally the right actions take place. And you don't got to try that hard. Because you want to eat healthy. You want to do the right things. Does it take any effort to do what you want to do? No, it only takes effort to do what you don't want. And that is why it's a grind. You have to do what you don't want in order to get what you do want. But what I'm saying is just become the version of you whose behavior is natural. Naturally aligned with what you want. And in order to do that, we have to reflect. And be focused on self-mastery. Because if you're not focused on self-mastery, you're going to be stuck on this side of the equation. You're going to think that what you want is outside of you. You're too focused on the destination. You're not focused on who you're becoming along the journey. That's the only thing that matters, is who you become. It's not about what you do in this life. It's the evolution of your character. And that is what will lead you to success. And you don't have to be like this self-improvement junkie where you're always trying to fix yourself. You don't want to get stuck in that either. Because that's still kind of the same thing over here. It's like, I'm going to do a lot of self-improvement so I can get this result that I want. You don't do to get anymore. You do to be. And this is a much different way of living. It's not as logical. It's more intuitive and feeling. So, if I were the other people in this house, struggling with whatever it is they're struggling with, let's just take the first struggle out of many problems, money. So what do? You got rent due, a few weeks, and you don't know how it's going to happen. What you do is you drown out the external world. You stop focusing on the evidence before you. You stop focusing on what your reality is telling you is true, and you decide what is true for you. You decide what you want to be true. So there's two stories going on. There's two stories going on. There's the story of you in your current circumstances of what you're going through, and then there's the version of you of the future, the potential you. So you want to take you now and the potential more ideal version of you, and you want to unite them. And you can do that on either side. So you can grind to become the version of you that you want to be, or you can just deal with this directly. So if I had rent due in 2 weeks and I didn't know what the heck I was going to do about it, all I would do is I would reaffirm my state of abundance. I would pick and choose a story that I feel is right for me, that I desire. Like I'm preparing to move out, or I'm preparing to live in a better place or a better house. Or even I just feel like, okay, this is what life is presenting, but I already know it's going to work out. Doesn't matter. Those who do not worry about things are like the most lucky. You'll see it happen. If you stop worrying about things, things work out. And it is because people worry and have fear about things that they keeps them stuck in negative states of consciousness. Lowers themselves, and so the lower version of themselves engages in more negative behavior, receiving worse results. And, I've gotten people in the comments on social media saying, well, fear is good. You got to have fear and you got to have a little bit of worry. And yes, it is true for those stuck in animalistic consciousness. Because fear and worry is a very motivating factor. That's the whole point of why they exist. You wouldn't have worry or fear if it wasn't meant to motivate you. It's supposed to force you to take massive action so you can grind your way to overcoming the problem. But you're no longer an animal, so you don't have to live that way anymore. And we didn't have that luxury for the past since the beginning of time. We have always been a slave to our animal instincts and our animal body. And people are still a slave, even in the age of information where everything is freely available. You can become enlightened. ChatGPT, what are the secrets of enlightenment? It'll tell you straight up, here, this is what it is. This is the truth. And you might not understand it because it's so far away from your current understanding of reality, but it doesn't mean it's not the truth. Or it's the truth as best we can understand it. So there's no excuses for anything in this life. Even homeless people have smartphones. They give them away free. And that's the beauty about this system. Is like everything is freely given to you. The only problem is that it destroys you because anything that is freely given is not appreciated. But I digress. So what I would do, I would probably meditate a lot, but I would pick the story. Something that feels right for me, that resonates. Because you don't want to pick a story like, oh, I'm a millionaire now. Because it's too big of a gap between where you are and where you want to be. So you won't believe it. You gotta believe it a little bit. It can't be so outside of the... Okay, so I might think of something like, it's okay, it's gonna work out. Everything is working out perfectly. I don't need to worry about it, it's not up to me. God has already taken care of it. God has already paid all my bills. And even if you don't believe in God, the underlying truth is still the same. You're relieving yourself of the burden of fear and worry. That's all it is. And whether or not you just do it as such, or you believe in God, or you... Whatever you gotta do to convince yourself of this story. Because until you change your energy, nothing's gonna change. And you can pay this month's rent. Figure it out. But guess what? Next month, next month, next month, next month. You gotta at least anticipate and stop just living day to day, or week to week, or month to month. Because life will chew you up and spit you out. It will pass you by if you don't stop and pay attention. You will get caught up in the daily monotony, the daily responsibilities of work and bills, and things you think you gotta do. You gotta take out the trash. Your whole life will be chewed up. And one day you'll look back and wonder where all the time went. Gotta change the story. And so what I would do is, if there was a little bit of fear, let's say, it's getting a little bit close to that deadline. I'm starting to worry a little bit. What I would do is I would go sit in meditation. And I would just breathe into that worry. I would feel it. I would just sit with it. I would look at it like a scientist with a magnifying glass. Very interesting. This is what worry feels like. This is what fear feels like. Interesting. And when you approach the fear and the worry like this, you stop resisting it. Because what you resist persists. Why people stay stuck their whole lives is because they're too busy trying to live. Like, okay, I've got worry. Let me just keep doing what I'm doing. With worry in the background now. With anxiety in the background. With depression in the background. Let me just try to live my life with all of these burdens weighing me down. It doesn't make any sense. And yet it's how everyone lives. It's like, let me carry these big bags of rocks on my shoulders and see how well I can live. See how successful I can get. You gotta deal with the dragons in your life. You can't just kick them under the rug. It's like a story that Jordan Peterson tells. Let's see if I can get it right. There once was a family, a little boy, a mom, and a dad. And one day a dragon appears in the home. A little baby dragon. And the boy's like, oh my God, look, it's a dragon. So cool. And he goes and runs and tells his mom, hey mom, there's a dragon in the house. And she tells him, look, there's no dragons. There's no such thing. Stop being silly. There's no dragons. They don't exist. And he's like, okay, whatever, I'm going to go play with the dragon. Husband goes off to work, does his thing. The next day, the boy wakes up and the dragon's a little bit bigger. He goes downstairs to eat breakfast, pancakes. And the dragon eats all his pancakes. He's like, Mom, The dragon ate my pancakes. She's like, no, dragons don't exist, silly. Stop it. Husband goes off to work. And every single day, that dragon gets bigger and bigger because all of those pancakes, they make you fat. Until one day, the husband comes home and the house is gone. He's like, where's my house? Dude, where's my house? The dragon was so big, it just picked up the house and walked away. And the little boy is, it's on top of the dragon. And he's like, Mom, what are we going to do? And she's still in denial and says, well, there are no such things as dragons. Stop being crazy. And you see this kind of thing happen all the time with people. You willfully ignored problems that were arising in your life. And you kicked them down the road until they got so bad, they blew up in your face. And guess what? If the problem is so big, you might not have enough energy to deal with it. You might not have enough power to overcome it. And that's why people die from addictions, from certain behavior patterns, trauma, conditioning. It's because if the dragon gets so big and you don't have enough power to deal with it, it eats you. That's the name of the game. You either overcome the dragon or it destroys you. And so you got to ask yourself, what are the dragons that you're avoiding? Because it is only through facing those dragons in which you will receive self-mastery. I don't think receive was the right word. That you will build self-mastery. And that the obstacles and the roadblocks that are apparently in your life, that they're not obstacles and roadblocks, but they are the path. They're stepping stones to where you want to go. And that is why most people fail. They don't want to face the problems that are right in front of them. So they ignore them. And the problems just destroy them later on. Part of self-mastery is being honest with yourself. Where are you failing in life? Where are you failing as a human being or as a man or as a woman? What stories are you telling yourself? What are your beliefs and your opinions about the world? And are these things productive or not? Because you cannot be in a state of self-reflection and hold on to these stupid thoughts about life. Like, it's so funny. It doesn't really irritate me. It's more of like disgusts me. That everybody's living in lack and scarcity so much. Such a repulsive energy. And I try to be compassionate, okay? But it's like, God, everybody's reaffirming lack and scarcity. This is expensive. This is so hard. This is a struggle. Life sucks. It's like you don't know how to live yet. Little baby. It's okay. They're there. It's not anybody's fault. It's just people are living in animalistic states of consciousness and are in survival and in fear all the time, and therefore that is what they get. They get nothing. Lack and scarcity. And that is why I say those who do not know their power, they have no power. Doesn't matter if you're a good person, doesn't matter if you're a bad person. If an evil person knows their power, you're cooked. Because they are highly motivated to manifest whatever it is they want. And the good-hearted people are like, no, I don't want much. I just want a little bit, some chickens and, maybe a duck or two. Have you ever had roast duck? That's good. Meanwhile, the evil person is hell-bent on conquering the whole world. And then you have to wrestle with the idea that, well, your children are going to live in a world ruled by evil people. As it is said, the only thing that is needed for evil to rule the world is for good people to stand by and do nothing. And what you want to do is you want to catch yourself anytime you begin going down that negative spiral, that negative rumination about anything in life. Because once you become aware of it, you realize, oh, I see, that's why my life sucks. It's because I had this underlying assumption that life sucks because of what my experience is. It's like, let's say if you got burned by friends in the past, like a friend betrayed you, and then you're on edge anytime you don't trust people now because one person betrayed you like years ago. You're keeping this underlying story alive about who people are or about how people are. And that sabotages your new future relationships. Same thing with intimate romantic relationships. What are your underlying assumptions about them? Same thing with money. What is your underlying beliefs? Do you think that it's hard to get? Do you have to do what you don't want to do? Do you have to grind? Is that your belief? Is that the way you see the world? What is the truth to you? And you have to ask yourself, okay, here's my life. You can rate your life on a scale of 1 to 10. How good it is, how bad it is. How much you suffer on a daily basis. And whatever answer you come with, well, that is the reflection of your mind. And if your life sucks, well, guess what? your beliefs and your opinions and whatever you think is probably useless. It's like, what is that movie? No Country for Old Men. The villain of the movie, he said at the end, right before he was about to kill someone, he said, as they were about to die, if the rule that you followed led you to this, of what use was the rule? If everything you've believed, if your philosophy on life has led you to this, of what good is your philosophy? Of what good is your thoughts? You cannot rely on yourself because it's led you to here. Now, there's different degrees of this. For example, in my life, doesn't mean I'm like the most perfect person in the world. I still have my own things that I'm dealing with. But, generally speaking, my life is great. Better than everyone else's. And I don't say that like I'm better than other people. I'm just saying like, I see how much everyone is suffering. I see the problems that people go through. And I reflect upon what I went through. And now that I don't have to deal with these things, I'm like, life could be so much better for all of you. If you just listen to me. Now, of course, you make your own judgment. You don't just accept everything that I say willy-nilly, because all men, all humans will lead you astray. You must trust your own inner guidance, your own inner wisdom. That is what I'm here for. I am here for you to discover the divine in yourself because I have discovered the divine in me. So I can give that to you. It all comes down to your fundamental assumptions about life. What do you consent to being true in your reality? And you cannot discover this without awareness. And you will not have the awareness unless you're focused on self-mastery. Because why else would you pay attention to that? You would have no reason. You're too busy putting out fires and dealing with problems and struggling and trying to survive. You're not thriving. It's survival. This is how you thrive. You take your attention away from the world. You focus it on yourself. You do to be. You don't do to get. You forget about the results. You forget about the end destination. Because it's irrelevant. I promise you. Everything that you want in this life will give you 10 seconds of joy. And it will just be another thing in your life. I'm not saying, certainly, to not go out and try and achieve everything you want. In fact, the opposite. Go out and achieve every single thing that you want in this life. Go out and do it. Receive your desires. If you want something, get it. But do it in a way that's conducive to a good life. And don't have false expectations. Don't believe that these temporary pleasures are going to give you lasting satisfaction. Enjoy the temporary pleasures. Enjoy the worldly things. You don't need to go denying yourself and become some celibate monk. You will be nothing more than a celibate monkey who has all of these desires and all of these instincts, but it's just repressing. It's like, no more sex, no money, only God. Now, if you can be in that mentality, well, congratulations. You'll probably be a saint. But if you're like most people, you got earthly desires, and until you go out and experience them or just drop them, they're not going to leave you alone. And that is the journey of self-mastery. You evolve on your journey to achieve your desires. But the focus is not on the desires, it's on who you become. Because the higher, the greater version of you already has everything you want. Stupid camera. All you got to do is step into their shoes. And you can do that through grinding or just aligning your energy with this. So you want to kind of reflect. Pick one area of your life that's troubling you. It could be money, it could be relationships, friendships, whatever, doesn't matter. And you want to journal about your assumptions, your beliefs. What do you feel is true for you? And you can be honest. You don't have to delude yourself. Be honest. And write in your journal, I feel like nothing ever goes right for me. I feel like life is a struggle. I feel like it's hard to make money. Just be honest. You don't need to fake it. And you don't need to worry about manifesting what you don't want because you're writing it in your journal. Just, God prefers your honesty. And if you can be honest with yourself and flesh out a little bit of this story, these underlying assumptions that you're telling yourself, you can then create from the future version of you the ideal version of you, you can create another story of what you want to be true. So you get clear on what you currently think, and you get clear on what the future version of you would think. And once you have this, all you gotta do is just point your mind in that direction. Toward the light, toward the ideal, toward the dream vision. And that is all. Everything else takes care of itself. You just put one foot in front of the other. Because everyone's going to be at their own different level in life. And everyone's going to have their own unique things they got to work out. But the universal truth behind it all is that all you got to do is focus on what you want long enough to see something happen. So let's look at it in terms of energy. So there's you, right? Let's give 3 versions of you. Past, now, future. And every single version of you has a certain energetic signature. And all that an energetic signature is, it's the accumulation of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You can even break it down to thoughts only, because that's where everything begins. So let's say there's the past version of you who you don't want to be anymore. The one who's living in lack and scarcity. The one who's living in, hell. And when you reflect, you kind of see, oh, okay, I get why my life sucks. It's because I'm always focusing on how bad life sucks. Because I'm focusing on the evidence that life is presenting to me. And that information sucks. I don't want it. I don't like it. And you see how easy it is to be a slave to your senses. You get a bill in the mail, now you're worried and stressed out. Because that bill is like a knife in the stomach. It's a wound, or it's a problem that is poking at the underlying wound that already exists. That is lack and scarcity. It's reaffirming more lack and scarcity. And if we react to that external stimuli, we will continue to reinforce a story that we don't want. We don't want to experience that story anymore. So we now need to begin to integrate the opposite energy. One that reflects the life that we do want to live. And we just need a little bit of clarity. And because we know what we don't want, we know what we do want. So you match your thoughts, feelings, and actions to this future version. But we're going to get rid of feelings and actions for now because a little bit more difficult. And we're going to focus on reactions. What are your thoughts about what happens to you? How do you react to your experiences? To these things that pop up, that seemingly contradict what you want? When you get that bill in the mail, how do you react? Do you react as, oh, it's all good, no worries, it doesn't matter. God has already taken care of it. God has already paid it off. God has paid off all my bills. I don't have to think about it anymore. And then, what happens if you do that? You become someone different. You become someone different to the degree in which you change your reaction to your experiences. So, let's say you've been struggling with an addiction. That's poopy. You can engage in that addiction over and over again, be a slave to it for years. But as it is said, a man never steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river and is not the same man. When you engage in that addiction, you assume that you're falling into past behavior. You're assuming that you're stuck in the same situation, but you're not. Because who you are changes all the time. So we falsely assume I got to get rid of the addiction and it's got to get out of my life and I can't be happy until I get rid of it. Action to get. Action to get. I'm trying to get rid of the addiction. I really want to get rid of the addiction. That's how most people live. And that's just, comes with years of suffering and struggle. But when you focus on your state of being, what happens? You begin to change the way you look at things and the things you look at begin to change. If you experience a problem, but in your mind you label it as not a problem, guess what happens? The problem disappears. And if you label the problem as a problem, it gets worse. It becomes a problem because you believe it into existence. Your assumptions, your stories that you tell yourself. All you gotta do is change the way you react to your life. You don't gotta focus so much on changing it. You don't need to change your circumstances. You need to change the way you respond to them. That is what makes the difference. That's what determines whether or not you wallow in suffering and die, or you overcome. This is what has happened in my situation in my life. Because in my life, in this circumstance, in this environment that I'm in, that has been negative for so long, why is it that it makes me more powerful and it breaks other people? My hypothesis was that it doesn't matter what my circumstances are. I control my state of being. I control what influences my mind. And trust me, that was a hard thing to really try and prove. Because when everything around you is telling you something, and you have to deny that, well, how powerful are you? And you don't even know if it's possible. But I proved it. But what I proved was that even if it does influence me negatively, it doesn't matter. Because my attitude is that of self-mastery. So nothing can overcome me. Nothing can defeat me. And anything that happens, I use for my highest spiritual growth. So it doesn't matter what happens in my life anymore. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It doesn't matter what the environment or the problem. Is there fear and worry? For like 5 seconds. But that's the difference between someone who is, well, far along on the spiritual journey versus someone who's stuck in animalistic consciousness. Like if you're stuck in animalistic consciousness, life is very sticky. There's a problem, and you react to that problem, but that problem lingers with you throughout the future. It stays with you. Like someone cuts you off in traffic, you get angry, and then you're angry the rest of the drive home for no reason. And until you find the awareness that like that's stupid, then it's not going to change. But that's what it's like living in an unconsciousness. You're not aware of all the stupid things you're doing. And we're all living in unconsciousness a little bit. But that is why awareness is key. And what will happen? Because your brain has a mechanism of selective focus. It focuses on certain things. You can use that part of your brain to selectively focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. Now, the way this is set up, we have energy and we have to conserve that energy. That energy is our life. And so, in the caveman days, if you gave too much energy to a certain thing, you would die. You need to eat food. And if you don't have enough energy to go out and get that food, you die. It's like, I saw a nature documentary one time about like cheetahs. Cheetahs run like 80 miles an hour or something like that. But how much energy do they use? So the part was like an energy, or the documentary was about a cheetah and her cubs. And she's on the edge of death all the time. Because if she doesn't catch that whatever, the rabbit or a deer thing, she might not have another chance. She might starve to death. So our system is very conservative. It focuses on lack and scarcity by default. It focuses on negativity by default. Because it is better to be afraid and motivated. Because if you're afraid and motivated, you're more likely to survive. Such a powerful motivating factor survival is. And so the inevitable consequence of this is that we can only focus on things that are relevant to us, to our identity, and also the instincts and stuff like that. The easiest example that I like to use is that if you were walking down the street and you saw a group of people standing around, and they were all wearing your favorite band on their t-shirt, and they all kind of looked like you, and you're like, interesting. You would immediately focus on them and probably go introduce yourself. Because they're your people. They match your identity. But if they had nothing to do with you, or you weren't interested in what they were talking about, you probably wouldn't even recognize that they existed. Your consciousness would not be able to focus on them. Because the information, the data, is irrelevant. You don't waste your energy on things that are irrelevant, that are neutral. And when you do, it's called schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is the process of perceiving meaning in everything, where it is not. Or should I say, I'll retract that. Schizophrenia is seeing meaning in everything. And you drown in your own mind because your energy is just, there. You can't focus. Now, I've never had schizophrenia, but that's what it seems like it is. And as it said, the schizophrenic drowns in the same ocean that the mystic swims in with delight. If you've ever had a psychedelic experience, you kind of have an idea of schizophrenia. Because everything has meaning, even the most monotonous, silly things that normally don't have any meaning. They take on a new light. Because the way you're looking at them is different. Life changes by the way you perceive. Life will change when you change. You change the way you look at things. You change your beliefs, your underlying assumptions, the way you look at the world. And reality will match that assumption. And what I am saying is that life is what you make of it. If you want to think that life is terrible and people are terrible and life sucks, guess what? It's going to be true for you. And if you think that living in abundance is effortless, it's easy to find relationships, it's easy to find friends, life is wonderful, life is beautiful, there's so many beautiful things happening all the time, then that will be true for you. And your mind will resist it because the mind, a lot of the time, feeds on negativity. It's what I call the monster mind. The monster mind is like a parasite that feeds off your negative emotions. So you entertain the negative thoughts. You entertain the negative stories and the negative beliefs. And the monster mind gets to feed off your energy. Like a human juice box. It's just, enjoying you. It enslaves you and you think you're in control. And that is how it gets you. If you ever want to know how demons work, I got you. One of the main things they do is they make you believe that you're in control. So you always got to have a little bit of humility. Because you never know when your strings are being pulled from beyond your awareness. And don't you dare have Stockholm Syndrome for these stupid beliefs. Like, well, I know what you're saying, but... No buts. Don't allow buts to ruin your life. You got to learn how to be comfortable accepting good things into your life. You got to be comfortable in accepting that life is actually good. Because if you train your nervous system to be in fight or flight, to live in lack and scarcity, to be in survival, anytime something good happens, you're going to be worried about losing it. And your worry about losing it will ensure that you sabotage everything. Every relationship, every money that you get, every good opportunity will be destroyed by your fear. All you got to do is feel differently. But of course, there's a little bit more to that. But feeling is the secret. Because feeling changes who you are. If you're someone who feels negative about money, guess what? You're a brokey. If you're someone who feels good about money, guess what? You're living in abundance. That's all it is. This whole time, all you had to do was feel differently about whatever it is. And you could save yourself years of misery. But in order to feel differently, guess what? You got to change the stories you're entertaining. You got to change the things you focus on. And when you start changing your reactions to life, guess what? It changes who you are. You just become whatever it is that you want. By embodying that energy. By just every single day slightly changing your attention. Slightly changing the things you focus on. And like I said about the addictions earlier, you can engage in addiction for 10 years. But the way you react to the addiction on year 1 versus year 10, much different. You're not struggling with the same addiction because you're not the same person. The addiction is not the same. You are not the same. So you are unaware of how much you've grown and changed because you think you're still in the same place a little bit. Or even if your current environment, you've been stuck in the same poopy circumstances for a long time, you don't realize that you've been kind of subtly growing this whole time, subtly evolving. But if you believe that you're just still stuck in the same situation, you won't see how you have been changing. And when you focus on changing instead of changing your circumstances, life turns on easy mode. Because you realize all you got to do is manage your state of being, manage your energy, manage how you feel, manage how you focus. Stop focusing on stupid things. Stop entertaining stupid stories that you don't want to be true. And stop trying to be so hard to be a realist and say, well, no, this is what's happening. Look at the evidence. Look at all these bills. This is the truth. Because if you want to live that way, you will live a slave to your animal instincts, a slave to the monster mind that's manipulating you into staying stuck. And another trick of the demons. Like, they don't even have to control you or influence you all that much. You do it to yourself. What the system does, what the evil elites do, what the reptilians do, it's nothing compared to what we do to ourselves. And that's the sick beauty of it all. It's the art form of evil. Because evil tyranny it's kind of gross. It's like, you're just an evil dictator trying to destroy everyone. But that's not how it is. That's not how life is. So much deeper and more sinister. It's like, oh, we don't have to control these sheeple. They control themselves. They're like crabs in a bucket. Look at them. Look at them pull each other back down into the bucket. Let's go boil them. Do you want to be boiled? I didn't think so. And it brings up a big thing. And that's stop listening to stupid people. Stop listening to people who aren't living the life that you want to live. Because again, some human brains lead them to do crack and poop in buckets, and some human beings, their brains, lead them to living a great successful life, whatever that means. And if your brain hasn't provided you success, listen to another brain that has. Because until you do, you're just going to get more of just the same. Somebody else is doing something right, and if you're not doing the right thing, well, your outer life isn't going to be satisfactory. So take it from me. Now, I'm not the most successful externally, although I'm more successful than most human beings who have ever lived, especially spiritually. And of course, I don't say this because I'm trying to be better. I want to show you what's possible if you listen to someone who has walked the path. Now, if you want to be a billionaire, do you listen to me about being a billionaire? Probably not. You want to listen to Donald Trump because he knows what it's like to be a billionaire. He has billionaire energy. So whatever he's doing, his brain has led him to that result. But if you want to live in abundance, meaning you have everything you need at the right time, no more, no less, perfect, the perfect amount. Because sometimes if you make too much money, you get corrupted. And if you don't make enough money, well, you get corrupted. But God knows the right amount of money that's perfect for you at this exact time of your life. What you're psychologically ready for. Same thing with relationships. Same thing with friendships. You look at somebody who has what you want and you embody their energy. And you just listen to what they do. Listen to what they say. They tell you successful people are always trying to tell you how to do the right things. I can't imagine how many successful people every single day are so frustrated that people don't listen. Because if only you listened, you could have what they have. But we have all of our garbage that we have to deal with and work through, and that's okay. Eventually, what you'll find is that you'll tap into your inner guidance, and that will lead you better than anyone else. But still, we kind of have to get clear about what we want. What is the future that you want to live? You gotta know this. Otherwise, you drift through life, and you fall to the path of least resistance, and that is temporary pleasures and addictions, and things that will never satisfy you. And it doesn't matter if you're 60 years old. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? And it's gonna change. You don't have to be so, life has to be this way. You honestly and genuinely ask yourself, what do I love? What do I enjoy? And screw whatever the world says. The world says, hey, get a job, loser. Well, guess what? You gotta stand on your own 2 feet and say, well, I don't care what society wants. I don't care what the world says. I don't care what anybody says. This is what I want. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna live. You gotta protect your kingdom because there's always barbarians at the gates looking to infiltrate your mind. You have to be the authority in your life, and you gain authority by giving yourself to God, by giving your life to God. So your authority is God's authority, and now that's a good life. Because imagine if God was right next to you every moment of your life. Infinite power, could do anything, click of your finger. What do you fear now? What problems are so big now? Nothing. Now God literally is with you all the time, but we don't recognize it, so we don't experience it. But what I'm saying, because I experience it, is, well, once you realize that God has already taken care of everything, what burdens do you place upon yourself? Answer me this. We suffer because we believe it's all up to us as separate little ego identifications. And of course, your life is going to be hard if that's the case, because your ego is small and the universe is big. So it's just going to overwhelm you until you just had enough and you finally surrender. Suffer too much. Done. Everything comes to you As Christ said, when you seek the kingdom, when you seek God and all of his righteousness, God is a cheat code to life. Now, it's not that you use God to just get what you want, like a magic wand or something like that. Eventually, you realize that God is the only thing you want. Doesn't mean you're not gonna struggle with temptations, but you just become more and more clear that what is really right, what is authentic to me, what do I really want, who do I really want to be, and you see that all things are possible because it's already done. Now, see how that affects your energy. If right now you had 100% certainty and faith that whatever problem you're going through has already been solved, that, my friend, is how the magic happens. It's like in the movie The Chosen, or the TV show, the biblical scene of Jesus in the crowd and the bleeding woman. The bleeding woman said, if I could only touch one single string of his garment, then I would be healed of this disease that has been plaguing me for so long. And the crowd was going wild, and Jesus was on his way to heal someone's daughter. And people everywhere, chaos. And she made her way through the crowd and was able to touch just a little piece of his garment. And Jesus looked around and said, who touched me? Who did this? Because he felt a power leave him in that moment. And she admitted to what she had done, and she said, I thought that if I could just touch a piece of your garment, that I would be healed. And it was true, it happened, I felt it immediately. And Jesus said, no, it wasn't me. It was your faith that healed you. Jesus demonstrated a very, very important thing, that you have the power within you. Nothing else. Jesus was just a vessel for you to have that faith and certainty, because you can't have it in yourself, because you're too imperfect, too animalistic, too non-reliable. So you can't trust yourself. You got to trust in a perfect being. You got to trust in God, incarnate, in order to have that level of faith. Otherwise, you say one thing, you do another. But if you had the faith of the mustard seed, you could tell that mountain, hey, go to the sea and get out of here. And it would happen. And what Jesus was saying is, like, through your faith alone, you create reality. You are master over this world, over this reality. And you will have complete dominion over the earth. And all of the slaves will be unable to help but serve you. Because when you're the light in a world full of darkness, well, that's a lot of supply and demand, my friend. And here I am, another crazy human being, helping guide you back to the truth in which you already know, but you have forgotten. Reminding you that if you could have trust and faith and certainty in what you want, it will be true, and there's nothing reality can do to stop you. The only thing that could stop you is someone else more powerful, with more certainty in what they believe, more congruence in their energy. So, you got people in your life, right? You are the center of a network of people, correct? So you got your family members, you got your friends, you got other people, and there's people that they know. There's just people everywhere. People everywhere. Now, here's the deal. Whoever is the strongest, most powerful out of all the people, their reality will be certain. And everyone else will have to orbit their reality, like a big sun in which the planets orbit. And whoever's reality wins is by whoever is the most certain, whoever has the strongest frame of their reality. And everyone else will have to just succumb to it. They'll have to deal with it, put up with it. So you got to ask yourself, are you the most powerful person in your life, or are you being subjected to somebody else's power? And so all you got to do is be certain. Develop that certainty. And it won't be so easy at first, but you grow into it. It becomes easier over time. You're certain of what you want. You're certain of the outcomes. And you stop having faith and trust in what you don't want. You stop having faith and trust in these negative, stupid stories that don't serve you at all. Like, oh, all of these things are so expensive. Rent is expensive. Groceries are expensive. Food, surviving. The economy is bad for everyone. It's all just made up garbage. Where is the economy? Where is all this struggling going on right now? It's going on in your thoughts. And you might say, no. It's going on in real life. Real life is going on. You can't just ignore this. You can't ignore the truth. Did you? And it's so funny once you realize this, because it's so subtle. It's such a subtle thing to realize that life is being experienced in your mind, not in reality. Because right now, where are the problems? Where's the economy? It doesn't exist. Where's the government? It doesn't exist. Where is the country of the United States of America? It doesn't exist. It exists as thoughts. And when you take away the thoughts, the entity stops existing. And you might say, no, well, the government is a real thing and they do things, You just got to keep looking, keep realizing that it's just a thought in your mind that you believe into existence. Otherwise, they don't exist. Where? Where do they exist? They exist out there. Well, you're not out there. You're right here. So where do they exist? They don't exist outside of your awareness. Unless you experience something, it doesn't exist. And you can see how troubling that is. Because logically, we say, well, no, it exists. It just exists outside of our awareness. Somebody else experienced it. But again, you don't experience something unless you focus on it. And so we manage our reality based on what we focus on. What do you allow in? What do you consent to being true in your life? And the more wisdom you get, the more you stop being a realist. In fact, you become more of a realist than people who think they're a realist. Because people who are realists are typically materialists. They're sense-driven. They only believe the evidence of what they think is true. But I find that a realist is an eternal optimist. Because God, as the eternal, is the most true. And that which is temporary is less true than the eternal. And when you tap into God, you begin to see with your own two eyes that life is perfect. And you can no longer hold on to these negative stories because they were illusions the whole time. We were just sleepwalking through life. We were living in an illusion, in ignorance. God gives you that certainty because God is reliable. Because what is eternal is reliable. And you can begin to see these certain patterns that lead to destruction or that lead to success. Like the foundation from which you have built your life upon. Like you have a house, right? You got a house. Little house. Do you build the foundation of your life on sand, that which is always changing, or have you built the foundation of your life on solid ground, that which is unchanging? Now, when we live from ego, the foundation of our life is built on sand. Because the ego is always changing, our thoughts are always changing, our mind is always changing, our personality is always changing. That is why when we rely on ourselves as the ego, life is doomed. You are doomed. Everyone is doomed. Because life is one day going to blow your house. And if you are not strongly rooted, it's going to fall over and your life is going to be destroyed. That's called a crisis, a midlife crisis. This is why it happens. Because we spend our life thinking we're the ego. Oh, this is who I am. I'm a businessman. I do business things, and this is my family, and this is my house, and this is my this, and this is my that. Until eventually life comes along and says, no, all wrong, all wrong. Everything you know is a lie. That's called a dark night of the soul. Everything you believe to be true has been ripped away from you violently, oftentimes. And that usually leads to a powerful spiritual awakening, in which you realize, oh, wait a minute, I built the foundation of my life on something that was stupid. Now I build the foundation of my life on what is solid. Now, no matter what happens, you remain unfazed. You're solid. You're like a tree with deep roots, because you have built your life on the eternal, that which is unchanging. And God is the only thing that is unchanging. And God is experienced in the present moment, because the present moment is also eternal. Like from the moment you're born to the moment you die, it's just one big moment. And so we play this game of learning how to be rooted in the eternal, in the present moment. You know, focusing on God, prayer, communication, developing a relationship with God. And at the same time, feeling what is right for us for the future, our vision, because that is our compass, guiding us to where we need to go. So we remain rooted in the present moment, no expectations, assuming only the best, assuming what you want to be true, and everything else is left up to God. And the reason that's so hard for people is because the more you're attached to ego, the more you want to control life. Because if you're not controlling life, you feel like unsafe. But controlling life from the ego is building your life on sand. The ego is unreliable. It fundamentally lives in insecurity. So you will live also in insecurity and in fear and in lack and in scarcity. And you can build a bigger ego. You can be the best ego in the world. It's still going to be a little bit fragile. You don't want to get rid of the ego necessarily. You just want a healthy one. One that serves you instead of destroys you. As it is said, the mind is a terrible master and a wonderful slave. You see, it is only in the present moment, when we tap into the eternal, do we find freedom from our thoughts. Those thoughts which have been ruining our life. Those negative stories, the rumination, the downward spirals. We have to learn how to tap into the present moment, because the present moment is a state of no mind. That is the foundation in which we build our life upon. Not thoughts, not beliefs. Like if you act from a story in your mind, the results are always going to be lesser than it could be, because the story is just a temporary phenomenon. So you're acting from a temporary phenomenon. You're not acting from eternal truth. Again, if you respond to the bill in the mail, you're allowing lack and scarcity to run your life. You're allowing your mind to be corrupted by lack and scarcity because you don't know how to turn off your thoughts, because you don't know how to find freedom from your thoughts or relief. If you don't know how to prevent the downward spiral from happening, well, what are you going to do? You're going to get dragged around by your thoughts your whole life and then die. But when you learn and understand that what you desire is in the present moment, you naturally become more attracted to that and less attracted to all of your mind stuff. Because you realize how much all of the mind stuff is just noise and distractions keeping you from what you really want, keeping you a slave. The only prison in existence is the one in your own mind, and you are the prisoner and the jailer. And you can let yourself out anytime you want, because those walls are only made up of thoughts, but we think they're permanent, like concrete. We couldn't see things any other way. You have to seek refuge in the present moment. That is where relief and peace and joy and love and abundance is found. So when you start seeing that fear, that worry, you take a deep breath and just rest in your body. Rest with that feeling, rest with that emotion. You want to get out of your mind and into your body, because the mind cannot function when your consciousness is rooted in the present moment. And what I mean is that your thoughts and your mind will no longer pull you all over the place, because now you're a tree with deep roots. So it's much easier to assume good things. I mean, half the battle is just not entertaining garbage. And this is how you do that. You take refuge in the present moment, because there's a safe space here, and it's always here, and it's always reliable. This is what it means to take refuge in the arms of God. You stop living from mind, from thoughts, from ego, from these stories, from these opinions and these beliefs, because you realize they're always changing. Doesn't make any sense to build the foundation of your life on those things. You want to find the emptiness, the stillness, the perfection in the present moment, the eternal, the infinite, because that's the only way you're going to sustain yourself through life. And sometimes the house has to fall down multiple times, and you build it back up, and it falls down, and you build it back up, until you learn, until you become aware, until you learn how to live life rightly. And what do you think all the religions have been trying to do? They try to say, this is the right way to live. All religions are vehicles to God. That is their main fundamental purpose. So too, that is the same fundamental purpose that I am sharing with you now. Because as Christ said, seek first the kingdom of God, and then everything else will be added on to you. And now you understand why. It's like the message of this whole, it's like the story of it's like what this whole video is about. When you find God, you find the source of abundance, of love, of peace, of joy. Therefore, you are no longer under the illusion of trying to satisfy this eternal hunger within you with temporary things. Again, doesn't mean you can't enjoy the temporary experiences. That's life. But you enjoy life from a place of deep satisfaction, of peace and contentment, because you found all that you were looking for. And now that you are free, you can go back and play the game of life from a whole new perspective. You play life on God mode, and that is how you create the life of your dreams. Because as an ego, you only have so much power to create. But as God, you have unlimited power. You have to have leverage. You can't be working with your hands because that takes time and energy. You got to learn how to will your reality into existence through your faith and certainty alone. And once you trust in your God power, it just becomes easier. At least that's what I've experienced. Because once you know that God is unlimited, there's nothing that God cannot do. And therefore there's nothing that you cannot do. Whenever you pray for something, pray as if it has already been received. That is how Jesus taught manifestation. Because he understood the power of God within us all. And science even knows it as well. It's called the placebo effect. Sometimes your God power accidentally changes reality from a fundamental level. Science doesn't get it. And it won't. Because just science is slow. Science is a good foundation to build your life upon. Decent enough. God is better. But in terms of other things, science is probably the most accurate. But you don't want to stop there. Because then you're going to be 1,000 years behind everyone else. Because the religions and the spiritual teachers and the mystics and the enlightened masters, they've already discovered all there is to be discovered thousands and thousands of years ago. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just that science is barely catching up. So if I'm living 1,000 years into the future, and science is only living right now, well, guess what? I'm ahead of the curve. Anybody who's just listening to science is going to get destroyed. They can't compete. It's not enough. But you don't want to, and you don't want to be so delusional that you just ignore science. The thing is, you got to ask yourself, what kind of life has your brain developed? What kind of life has your brain created for you? And if your life sucks, well, you can't trust your brain by definition. Because if you keep trusting your brain, you'll keep getting more of just the same. So you got to begin questioning your beliefs, questioning everything you think. Because life will tell you when you're on the right path. And life will tell you when you have strayed based on how much suffering you experience. Like if you're suffering miserably all the time, it means your mind is not effective. And that's not supposed to be like an offense to you or anyone. It's just the fact. So you cannot change your reality until you change your own mind. Until you change who you are. Until you change your thoughts. Change your thoughts and change your life. As the Buddha said, we are what we think, and all that we are arises with our thoughts. And with our thoughts, we make the world. So pay attention to the words that you speak and the thoughts that you think. Get clear on who you want to be and where you are going. Get clear on the story you're telling yourself and the story that you want to live. And all that you need to do is focus your mind in the right direction. You're channeling your God power to create what you want. And if you can have faith and trust and certainty in the eternal, that what you want is already yours, it's already been given to you, it will happen with no question about it. But you got to let go of your expectations. You have to assume the best while at the same time having no expectation. Because your expectation will influence the result. But if you just trust and have faith that everything's working out perfectly, you can be grounded in the present moment and not get stuck in your thoughts worrying. It's simply aligning yourself with the divine image. That is what saves you. And that divine image comes with certain beliefs, certain ways of looking at the world, and those things lead to certain results. Certain inputs lead to certain outputs. Life is a mirror of you. And the only thing you gotta ask yourself is, do you like the reflection staring back? I am Ray, and if you want to shave off years of struggling with your negative thoughts, I created this just for you. So you don't have to spend years suffering and wandering aimlessly like I did. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be